All right, men, welcome to today's episode of Strong Men, Strong Marriages, how to stop being frustrated in your marriage. So if you find yourself just frustrated, you're trying to make these changes, your wife's not appreciating them, you're getting turned down for sex, you think she should be doing things differently, she should be getting over it, she should like you better than she does. Um, you're getting kind of tired of putting more effort in than you think she is. Okay. So all of that leads to a lot of frustration. So we're going to talk about today how you can stop being frustrated. Super powerful lesson today. So I'm excited to share it with you guys. So my name is Mike Frazier, MD. I'm a psychiatrist and marriage coach, and I help high achieving Christian men have more intimate marriages. So here's some wins from some guys in my program, Strong Men, Strong Marriages program. So guys, they're feeling more confident in handling difficult emotions and situations. Look, no matter what your marriage situation is right now, there's going to be times where things are difficult, where you'll have a hard conversation where about money, sex, in-laws, parenting, religion, housework, maybe something's going on with your job. Just having these conversations, it can be hard, but guys are just feeling much more confident in their ability to do it and having these tough conversations. Guys are being more honest, even when it's difficult. A lot of us, we tend to hide. We hide things we're doing wrong. We hide how we really think and feel. We're walking on eggshells. Guys are breaking out of that, right? They're having the strength to be honest, even when it's difficult. Guys are starting to let go of judgment of their wife, of their kids. Man, so powerful, so powerful. Guys are listening deeply to their wives, showing real admiration for them, starting to see, why they married their wife in the first place. And when we're frustrated, it gets hard to see that sometimes. So when we refocus on why we chose to marry our wife and what we admire about her, we feel more loving, and that feels better and it's more attractive. Hey guys are going in just a few weeks from talking about divorce to having hugs and kisses. Okay, that's the kind of dramatic things that can happen when you apply the principles of the Strong Men, Strong Marriages program. Okay, guys, they're connecting with joy in their hobbies again. A lot of us, we kind of forget about what makes us happy. We're in the name of sacrificing for our family, then we end up feeling pretty empty. So guys are making those shifts, right? They're connecting with those things that bring them joy, and you're more attractive when you're full of joy. Guys, they're finding win-wins. They're getting to agreements on stuff like money, sex, in-laws, parenting, religion, housework, having just a situation that they both enjoy in their marriage. One gentleman shared he has a deep connection that he feels has been missing for a long time. Okay, super powerful. Guys are getting more eye contact, more smiles from their wives. Right. Then for me this week, I'm going to share this more about this in Thursday Thoughts, but a friend of mine, a close friend of mine, passed away on Easter. Got in a car accident. It's about my age, has a couple of young kids. It just kind of made me realize what's important. It made me think about how I want my kids to remember me, and my wife and friends and, clients and everybody. Um, but yeah, I mean, I tend to fall into being frustrated quite a bit. Um, and so that's not something I want my kids to remember, right? That's not how I want them to remember me. Oh, my dad was frustrated at me all the time, or my YFO, he was frustrated at me all the time. So um, the lesson today, it's a big part of that. I don't want that. I imagine you don't really want your wife and kids remembering that you were just frustrated at them all the time. So let's get into it today. So here's some things that you're probably trying now, right? So you're trying to make some positive changes in your life. You're listening to this podcast, so maybe you're trying to listen more to your wife. Maybe you're feel like you're managing your emotions a little bit better. Although there's more tools you can learn if you come into the program. You're trying to connect with God a little bit more, and maybe you're even starting to feel better. You're like, hey, like I am doing things a little bit better. But you're running into some issues, and some guys in my program too. They come in, they start making these changes, and they feel better very quickly. But then their wife isn't changing right away. Okay. So I had a guy, he'd been in the program like a week, and he was like, man, my wife's, she's not responding, she's not doing what I want. He started getting frustrated. Right. And so it happens. Even when you are doing the right thing, sometimes your wife won't respond as quickly as you think she should. Right. And this is going to be a key phrase throughout today, that idea of should. So keep that one in mind. So maybe, again, you're making these changes, but she's still bringing up your past mistakes, or she's still turning you down for sex or for kisses or from hugs. She doesn't really want to be around you, or she's still talking about separation or divorce, even though you're making these changes. Okay. And so you start getting frustrated. You're like, man, what's the point of making these changes? Maybe I should just go back to the way I was. What's wrong with her? It's another common thing. Look, I'm making these changes. When's it her turn? When's she going to do something? So it's easy to go there, right? And with your kids, it can be a similar story. You're trying to be nice to them, but they're not being nice to you, especially if you got teenage kids. That's where we're at right now. Or they should be listening. They should be working harder in school. They should have a job by now. It's easy to think everybody should be acting a different way. Okay. And that's really where frustration comes from. This is a lesson I learned from our coach that works with us, Coach Mimi, in our program. It's really believing that things should be different than how they are. Okay. So again, your wife shouldn't be taking so long to get over things. Your wife should be putting more effort in. Your wife shouldn't be bringing up the past. Your wife should not have had an affair. Okay. Your kids should listen and respect you more. Okay. So it all ties back to that. And what happens is you're arguing with reality. Okay. So, oh yeah, she should have gotten over this a long time ago, but she didn't, right? So you're arguing with reality. So of course you're frustrated because you can't change. Again, you're arguing with reality. You're going to lose that argument every single time, which will lead to more frustration. So the word should, right? If I looked up the definition, so one, the way we're talking about it, it's to express obligation, which is like they have to. Okay, they have to get over this. They have to. I'll give an example later, but they have to go to practice today. They have to. My wife has to behave differently. She has to be faithful to me, right? Or propriety is the other definition of should, which is like it's wrong for them not to. Okay, so they are wrong. Okay, my wife's wrong not to be working as hard as I am in the marriage. My wife's wrong to keep bringing up the past. That's wrong. Okay. Or expediency, meaning like suited to the end in view. In other words, what she's doing isn't getting me where I want to go. Okay. And maybe not her either. Right. So look, she keeps bringing up the past. That she shouldn't do that because that's not going to get us to a good marriage. Right. Or, she shouldn't have had an affair because that wrecked our marriage. Right. And that was wrong. And all of that. Right. And so maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. It is wrong to have an affair on either side, from a moral standpoint. Okay. Bringing up the past over and over again, is it going to get you like healing? Actually, the truth is it does kind of help. As long as you handle that well, it can help with that. But bringing it up forever and never getting over it, will that get you to a happy marriage? Probably not. But again, right, it's this element of arguing with reality, right? So again, maybe you're right. Maybe should in the sense of right and wrong. Maybe that's right. Okay. Maybe it's not. She would probably be, well, you shouldn't be acting the way that you are. She could fire something right back at you because none of us are perfect. And so again, should kind of couple issues with it. It measures us against perfection sometimes, which will always leave us lacking. It's a big thing we focus on in the program. As high achieving guys, we tend to do that. We tend to focus on perfection and always measure ourselves in that gap, like where I am now to where I want to be. Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Because we think we should be at a different place than we are. Again, we're arguing with reality, and so we're frustrated, right? So, but another big issue comes up with this should, right, is there's a lot of things going on that are problematic. So one is like a one-up position. So if you're like, oh, my wife shouldn't be talking about this, or she should be working just as hard as I am, that's a one-up mentality, a superior mentality. I'm better than my wife. That's essentially what you're saying there. She brings up all this, but I don't, right? I'm better than her. So that whole mentality, it's very unattractive to her. Just understand that. It's also very judgmental. Oh, she should be this. It's wrong to do that. So again, maybe you're right. Like having an affair, you're probably right. That is morally not a correct thing to do. Okay. but you're not perfect either. And so, yeah, let God be the judge. Don't try to take on that role. Again, kind of talking about, how you want people to remember you. Do you want people to remember you as this judgmental dude? Probably not. But should puts us there. It puts us into that judgmental spot. It also leads to us objectifying her, treating her like an object, right? Hey, you keep bringing her up the past. That's not getting me what I want. I want to have a happy marriage. You're in the way of that. You're treating her like an obstacle. So should does a lot of problematic things. It makes you frustrated, which isn't attractive. It also puts you in that one-up, judgmental, objectifying position, which again is very unattractive to your wife. And again, maybe you're right. Maybe things should be different. But again, your wife could fire something right back at you. Well, you should be doing this, right? You're not perfect either. Okay, she's right too. It's just an ineffective argument. You should this, you should that, right? Just doesn't get you anywhere for the most part. Again, these emotions are not attractive. They don't encourage anybody to change. They mainly encourage people to just get defensive. So what do you do instead? It's pretty simple, and that's the good thing. You just need to stop arguing with reality. Frustration, it's an argument with reality, and you will always lose that argument. You just need to see the situation for what it is, right? Take the situation where it is. Don't compare it to some ideal that's just going to make you frustrated, comparing it to some ideal. Again, you're in that gap, makes everybody mad, makes everybody feel bad, puts you in a superior position. Just see what's going on, right? And then just decide what you're going to do about it. That's it. This is how you get rid of frustration. You stop measuring against some imaginary how things should be, and you say, this is my reality, and then this is how I'm going to deal with it. Powerful, right? That leaves you empowered instead of totally helpless and whiny and complaining. Oh, it should be this way, it should be this way, right? That's weak, and it doesn't accomplish anything. Where if you're like, hey, this is my situation, how am I going to deal with it? Right? Much more effective, much more empowered. It's going to get you to a better place much faster. Okay? Again, frustration, it's just whiny, it's complaining. No, my wife keeps bringing up my past. She shouldn't do that. Right? Nobody's attracted to that. Okay? My kids don't listen to me. Whiny, complaining. Okay, not strong, not empowered. Now, we kind of mask that sometimes by like in anger, like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. But again, that's a one-up superior mentality, judgmental, not attractive, not effective. Okay? So again, instead of doing all that, whining, complaining, taking a fake position of strength, just be a man and deal with it. Okay, that's one of my favorite phrases. And maybe I overuse it with my kids, like, hey, you need to just deal with it. But that's the truth. You need to just deal with it. If your wife's bringing up the past a lot, you need to deal with it. How are you going to respond? Okay, you're going to stop saying, oh, she shouldn't do that anymore. And you're just going to say, she is doing it. What am I going to do about it? You see the difference? See how one's strong and one's weak? See how one's empowered and one's not? So again, if your wife's bringing up your past, decide what you'll do when she does. Make a plan. Instead of saying, she shouldn't do that anymore. What are you going to do about it? She's going to do it. What are you going to do about it? Your wife says no to sex. Okay, are you going to whine and complain, or are you going to decide what you're going to do when she says no to sex? Your kids don't listen. Are you going to whine and complain and yell at them, or are you just going to decide what you're going to do when it happens? Okay. The power of this is it brings you back again to your power. It's empowered to say, okay, this is happening. What am I going to do about it? Make a plan, right? In our program, we help you really set up those plans because sometimes you need help, right? Sometimes it's hard to know what is a good response when my wife keeps freaking out my past. What is a good response when my wife says no to sex? What is a good response when my kids don't listen to me? Sometimes you need some help deciding and creating that response. But instead of arguing with reality and saying, well, it shouldn't be this way, it shouldn't be that way, they need to stop that, they need to just stop doing that. My solution is to make them stop. Okay, bad solution, because you're trying to do something not in your control. At best, you're being manipulative. Okay, and maybe you can like force them into it for a while, but then eventually people rebel. They don't like that, kids and your wife. They don't want to be controlled. So again, bring it back to what you can do, behaving the way that you want to behave. Okay. So again, what are you going to do about it? Your kids don't listen. The solution isn't make them listen. Okay. Your wife says no to sex. The solution isn't make her have sex, right? Your wife brings up the past. The solution isn't make her stop bringing up the past. So the solution is, what am I going to do about it? Okay. She might do that. What am I going to do about it? Right. That's empowering, not controlling, empowering, just deciding what you are going to do about it. How are you going to think, feel, and act in that situation, and with what intentions? Those are the questions to ask yourself. Okay. If your wife brings up the past, how are you going to think, feel, and act in that situation? Your wife says no to sex. How are you going to think, feel, and act? Your kids don't listen. How are you going to think, feel, and act? Just bring it back there. That eliminates frustration because it lands you in your power. So here's an example for my own house. This just happened yesterday, actually. So my son comes in and he says, I don't want to go to practice. He's doing hockey, which is super cool. Proud of him. So, my immediate thinking is he should go. He committed to it, right? That comes into my mind. Okay, so there's a should. So how do you think I'm feeling? Frustrated, right? He's doing something that he's not supposed to do. He should be doing something different. So now I'm frustrated. So my action, I try to convince him to go. My intention is to make him go. Result is I'm trying to force him, right? It's not helpful. It's not attractive to my wife. And he just digs in more, right? He's like, you don't care. Like, I'm not going. You can't make me go. That's what happens. That's a typical response, right? When we come out in a frustrated way, okay, people respond typically by rejecting everything that we have to say. That's usually what happens, because again, they can sense like it's this whole thing. It's selfish, right? I mean, it's I'm kind of wanting it for him, but the frustration's coming from this idea he should be acting differently. Okay, where he wants to feel like, hey, my dad cares about me, and he loves me, and he has the best for me. And a lot of guys, they'll argue with that and say, no, I really do, right? Because like, looking at myself here, is my intention for him to grow in this? Yeah. Am I frustrated because I feel like it's getting in the way of a future that he could have? Yes. Right. That is in part where it's coming from. But again, it's this arguing with reality, right? This frustration that he should be acting differently right in this second. Again, it's that gap mentality. Like, he should be acting in a perfect way here. He should honor his commitments every time, right? Where again, he could fire that right back at me and say, hey dad, like, you said you would schedule a practice and you didn't, which actually he did. He did that exact thing. He fired it right back at me, and he was right. Right? I am also not living up to that standard all the time. Okay. So when I come at him and I'm like, oh, you should be doing this, you're not living to the standard. Again, it's easy for them to fire it back at you because you're not either. That's the truth. So again, this one up frustration, it never goes anywhere productive. So this was with some help from my wife, who is very good at a lot of this. So yeah, I was able to eventually kind of shift my mindset. And my wife, again, helped me, and she kind of has this mindset anyway, which is great. So instead, when he's like, excuse me, like, dad, I don't want to go to practice, I can shift my thinking. I can think, hey, listen, I can understand where he's at, and let's make a decision together. Now, and what my wife pointed out to me is like, listen, like we can, the outcome may be the same. We may still make him go, but we can still listen, right? We want him to feel heard and understood. Sure, it's our job as parents to teach him certain lessons, but there's more effective ways to teach him those lessons. And so eventually I was able to shift my thinking, right? So same situation. I didn't change him. He's still not really wanting to go. But my thinking is, hey, look, I can understand him. Let's make a decision together. My wife was there with us. We were all talking together. So eventually I was able to get to more calm feeling, a more interested feeling in where he was. My action, ask questions, listen. And I wasn't great at this yesterday, but my wife did a good job. So I was able to kind of follow her. My intention was to understand, get to win-win, or give appropriate consequences, right? Result was we did come to a conclusion that we felt good about. He ended up going. He ended up enjoying it. And yeah, so this is kind of like a middle ground for me between that old frustrate, oh, you have to go kind of mindset, and a understanding, hey, let's get to win-win. Let's assign consequences if we need to. Again, my wife did a good job kind of leading that and helping me. But so in summary, frustration, it comes from believing that things should be different than how they are. Okay, so if you want to stop being frustrated, stop comparing where you are right now to how things should be. Just get rid of that. you're going to be arguing with reality, and you'll always lose that argument. And so you're going to be increasingly frustrated. It's just ineffective. Okay. It leads to whining and complaining, either internally or externally. Oh, it should be this way. She shouldn't do this. She shouldn't do that. Right. So you're whining. That's not strong. It's not attractive. Or you're telling her, hey, you should be acting differently. Again, that's one up, superior, judgmental, manipulative, also not attractive. She's probably going to fire it right back at you. Well, you should be doing this. Okay. So instead of complaining about how things should be, just recognize the reality and decide how you want to deal with it. This is the solution for frustration, I promise. This is happening. How am I going to deal with it? She's going to act this way. How do I want to deal with it? Again, that's empowering. It leads you to where something you can actually control, which feels solid and is strong and attractive. Okay. And then again, sometimes you need some help. Okay, so you might be like, yeah, that makes sense. If I just keep saying should, I'm just going to be frustrated and it's not going to help anyway. But what is going to help? What should I do? Right? Or a better question, what can I do that's going to be more effective? So that's what we teach. That's what we teach in Strong Men, Strong Marriages, my program. So if you want to come in and you want to create some plans, okay, my wife does keep doing this. I understand I have to take control of what I'm going to do, but I don't really know what to do. So come in and we'll help you figure that out, right? That's what we do all day, every day. Guys are getting great wins like we shared at the beginning here. And that can be you. Guys are getting good wins every day, right? Every day. And super powerful, super fun to see. And I'd love to have you join us. So we can help you figure out, how to deal with your reality in a way that you can be proud of in Strong Men, Strong Marriages. So head over to strongmenstrongmarriages.com. You'll fill out an application, and then we'll review that and tell you your best next steps. Also, we open the program this year. It's going to be every 3 months. So it opened in January. It's going to open again at the end of the month. A couple weeks. So if you're not on the email list already, get on it. Or if you fill out an application, it'll be automatically added. We'll again kind of direct you to your best next steps. But again, head over to strongmenstrongmarriages.com, fill out an application, and we will see you there. All right, stay strong, men. We'll see you next episode.